I think it's very easy for us to take for granted that really all humans have a certain sense that there's life after death. And it's important to recognize that in many ways that's actually a product of Christianity, right? That it's Jews and Christians who really bequeath to the world the idea that there is life after death. And if you look at just the world in the most naturalistic way, it's not immediately obvious that that's the case, right? All kinds of animals die, plants die, death is just a part of life, right? And so for many ancient and early cultures, they did not have a sense that somebody lived on in a personal way after death. The Greeks had this idea of the shades, right? If you passed away, you became a shade in the underworld somehow, but that's really not in any way the same way that they would have, that we think about eternal life, right? And so for many ancient cultures, somebody survived after death by the memory of their family and friends whom they left behind, right? That once my grandmother has passed on, she lives on in me, in my love for her, in my memories of her, right? And so it very quickly happens that people begin to remember those who have passed on in a purposeful way, in some way giving them a continuing life. This is where the idea of respecting your ancestors comes from, even the idea of the household gods that a lot of early cultures have. It's their purposely remembering their ancestors and those who have died before them to keep them alive in their memories and in their hearts. And so the Jews, as a very particular people, develop an idea of life after death, eternal life. And there's a couple reasons for this. One is that God is a just God, and so God must reward people for what they've done in this life, in the life to come, because clearly it doesn't happen in this life, right? But one of the main ways that they conceive of eternal life is that just as my grandmother lives on in my memory and in my own heart, one day I too will die, right? And my memory of her will die, and my heart for her will die. But the Jews say, but the Lord knows his people, right? The Lord has made a covenant promise to be with his people forever. And the Lord knows us, and the Lord remembers us, and the Lord is forever. Therefore, those who die in the Lord live on in him in an everlasting way. So they develop this idea of eternal life, not upon some kind of immortality of the soul or really anything about human nature, but something about who God is. That it's because God is life, those who belong to him, those who are known by him, those who are loved by him, are loved into eternity. Not because of themselves, but because of who God is. Within the New Testament, what Christ does and what his followers do is they develop that even further. Not only is life being known by God, but life is also knowing God in turn. Jesus says in the Gospel of John, right? To know you, Father, is eternal life. And in the first letter of John, he says that seeing God as he is, we will be like him, right? That if God is life, we will see him as he is, and seeing and knowing him, we too will share in his life. So for us as Christians, the Christian life is day by day, more and more, even in this life, knowing the Lord and being known by him. That he has made promises, right? Covenant promises to know and love me for all eternity, which he effects on the cross, right? In a definitive way. And by knowing him and being known by him, I have life, because he is life. And I think that's what Jesus is getting at in our gospel this afternoon. He's describing how to have life. He says, you know me and also know where I am from. Yet I did not come on my own, but the one who sent me, whom you do not know, right, is true. I know him because I am from him, and he sent me. For us as Christians, Jesus Christ is knowledge of the Father. He is knowledge of who God is, right? It's God speaking his eternal word into the world and telling us about himself. So for us as Christians, our life is to know Jesus Christ and to be known by him, right? And to be transformed by that knowledge more and more into him who is life. That Jesus Christ, in a radical way that never happened before or after, reveals to us who God is and what his life is for us. And the great scandal that we're gently walking towards is that in 2 weeks, on Good Friday, right, life itself dies. And Jesus Christ manifests to us, reveals to us in a special way God's heart for us, his memory for us, his desires for us, what it means to truly live. So at this altar, as we remember precisely that sacrifice, right? As the one who is life itself becomes present for us on this altar, and we receive in our very bodies, right? He who is life, and as John 6 tells us, we have eternal life through consuming him, right? Let us draw close to him. Let us allow him to transform us. That letting him know me in all of my brokenness and all of my death, right? I have life. And knowing him in all of his goodness and all of his blessings, I have life. And in the life to come, I will know him perfectly and I will be known by him perfectly, and that is eternal life.